was issuing, but they insisted that there was another document, the so-called long-form birth certificate, which the state of Hawaii to come out of Congress in the history of this country. Welcome back to Democracy Docket. I'm Mark Elias.
And I'm Paige Moskowitz. Let's get started.
You know, Paige, we have been talking for months and months about this bill, the SAVE Act, which is a Republican voter suppression bill. It is aimed at disenfranchising all manner of people, young voters, transient voters, married women. We'll get into that in a minute. And there have been, all eyes have been on the Republicans in Congress to see whether they try.
What's up, y'all? Just checking in on this married women's thing, actually. This is terrible. You know, I was speaking about this last night, and I was aware of it. And, of course, Donald Trump, what's going on here? Donald Trump seems to, he seems to actually, let me take this off the screen, I'm sorry. He seems to actually do things, you know, just rapidly, rapid fire, boom, 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 boom. And, can y'all hear me, number one? Let me just check the audio. I'm sorry. Let me check the audio real quick. 2 seconds. Whew. I'm still under the weather, but yeah, it seems to be a little bug going around here. But let me just check the audio real quick to make sure everybody can hear me. Otherwise, I will start the stream over. Let me see here. Let me see if it's there. Okay. Let me just double check. Right. There we go. So I'm live. Now check it out. The Marriage Act. I don't know what the hell this is. It's just been done a couple of days ago. The House passed this. What I can say to people is prepare. You know, last night I was saying prepare. Buy dry foods, canned foods as much as you can. Stock up. I know that sounds ridiculous, and it's really crazy to have a false alarm to warn people about things. But then again, my intuition tells me it's better to be prepared than to be sorry. Because you can see that this administration has no intention, or the Republican Party, they have no intention of not harming American citizens, period. It's an attack on democracy. And there's no better way to attack a democracy than to take people's right to vote away from them, or to hinder their right to vote purposely. And the fact that they would do something so ridiculous. I mean, again, why would any woman think that this is okay? Now, keep in mind, myself, you know, my family's been in the United States since the beginning of the country. Both sides of my family. Both sides of my family, you know, all of them play a role in the foundings of the country, as you know, as their families were present. Now, and the thing of it is that women didn't even have the right to vote. This is how cowardly this act is. Women didn't even have the right to vote. They didn't have the right to own property until the 14th Amendment, right? If I'm correct. If I'm incorrect, correct me. And now, you know, they're just going out to widespread attack women, to attack women's right to vote. I mean, this is unheard of in the Western world today. This is unheard of. This is a blatant violation of the Constitution. And yet they pass it in the House? They pass it in the House? That means if it's not challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court does not give a verdict, very swiftly knock this thing down, it will become law. Pretty much, as I understand it. But isn't it such a cowardly act? I mean, because let's be honest, I'm not a woman. I'm not a woman. So this doesn't, it doesn't affect me that way. I have my birth certificate. I have a real one that is issued by the federal government, a copy. The federal government holds mine at the embassy, but it's direct from DC. I'm a DC resident. So that means I can get access to things because DC is not playing as a state. They're not playing games with any of this stuff. I've had to do this before to register my children, to register things, to get access to a birth certificate already. That's part of the process when you live abroad. You can use that birth certificate for many reasons. And I'm not talking about the old one printed out somewhere. I'm talking about one that has been recertified, brand new. You see what I mean? I have a passport because I live in a foreign country. So I live outside of the US. So I have a passport. I got my newest passport just before Trump came into office because I was like, this MFer is definitely going to try to screw over or slow down the process. My passport had 1 more year on it. So I was like, I ain't waiting for Trump to get in office to apply for a new one. So I got mine renewed for 10 years, right? A new one. Just before the first week of January, I received mine this year, 2 weeks before Trump became the president officially, right? So what I'm telling people right now, prepare. If you don't have a passport, go get your passport. If you have $100, go get your passport. Do not wait, because this guy, I'm just telling you my thoughts, he wants a civil war to happen in the United States. Of course, he's not going to say it, but he's going to do everything to make it happen because that is what Putin's plan has been the entire time. I'm just telling you. Don't wait around for things to get too crazy for you to prepare. And I'm saying, if you're not the type that's willing to pick up a gun and fight for your rights, you need to have another plan. And that is have your passport ready so you can get the hell out of Dodge. Straight up. If there's 4 of you, that's only $400 for all of y'all. Maybe $480, maybe $500, $120 per person, something like that. If you have kids, throw another $80 on there. Make your move now before the prices on the passports go up, before the criteria on the passports go up. You don't need another plan. If you don't have that part of it down, you ain't going anywhere fast. You see what I'm saying? So let's get back to listening to this. As a matter of fact, let me put this on hold. 2 seconds, y'all. I'm sorry. 2 seconds. I need to do something that I didn't do before. So let me go here. Close this bad boy down. Let me see something here. Copy. Put this here. Put this down there. Boom. I don't know if you guys can see that, but 2 seconds. I'm just going to re-prepare this video before I play it again. Yeah. So, like I was saying, get prepared, American citizens, because this is a huge violation of rights. It's a huge violation of rights. And, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Let me just grab my music real quick and go on to a 2-second pause while I prepare to stream again. Sorry about that. I just want to make sure that everything is straight here. Let me see here. Oh, I don't have to do that. I can just say 2 seconds, y'all. Just give me 2 seconds. This PC, right? Let me see here. Oh no, MP3. I need to pull up the MP3. MP3. Yeah, this is horrible. And it's scary. I didn't have so much time yesterday. And like I said, I've been a little bit sick. But, this is a very huge story. Anytime something passes in the House, you have to take it serious. Passes in the Senate, you have to take it serious. Because these things can become law. And Donald Trump would gladly sign it. And he will tell the women of America, sorry about that, y'all, but, I told you some pain without pain, no gain, right? So he's putting it on you to accept having your rights being taken from you. And he's calling that something that you can accept. Yeah, that's what he's calling it. So let me see here. What is it called? So, right. Let me try to see if I can find this MP3 file so I can take a pause real quick. I'm just going to wait for people to get through here. I know everybody's at work. Maybe people in the U.S. are asleep right now. Over here in the EU, people at work. But I just want to slow this horse down a little bit if I can. Where is this? Where is this at, man? SIR. There we go. Now let me see here. Boom. Come on. Open with. All right. I'm going to throw on some music. I'll be back in 2 seconds and then we're going to continue with this. Sorry about that.
Breaking news.
All right, here we go.
House Republicans just passed a sweeping anti-voting bill, which historians are saying is the most anti-voting piece of legislation to come out of Congress in the history of this country. Welcome back to Democracy Docket. I'm Mark Elias.
And I'm Paige Moskowitz. Let's get started.
You know, Paige, we have been talking for months and months about this bill, the SAVE Act, which is a Republican voter suppression bill. It is aimed at disenfranchising all manner of people, young voters, transient voters, married women. We'll get into that in a minute. And there have been, all eyes have been on the Republicans in Congress to see whether they try to advance this bill. Transient voters, married women. We'll get into that in a minute. For months and months about this bill, the SAVE Act, which is a Republican voter suppression bill. It is aimed at disenfranchising all manner of people, young voters, transient voters, married women. We'll get into that in a minute. And there have been, all eyes have been on the Republicans in Congress to see whether they try to advance this bill, even in light of all of the unpopular measures they have now been stuck carrying for Donald Trump. There was some thought maybe because Donald Trump put forward his own anti-voting executive order, that was to take the heat off of House Republicans from having to carry this bill forward. But oh no. Earlier today, they lined up in a party unified bloc and passed the SAVE Act out of the House of Representatives. Now it will go on to the Senate, where I suspect it will die. But it is a telling sign of the age in which we live that House Republicans, in the middle of a financial crisis, when Donald Trump is ruining our alliances around the world, when Elon Musk and Doge are trashing our federal government, when prices are rising, the thing that the House Republicans spend time on is to try to disenfranchise millions of voters.
Mark, we've talked about this bill in detail before,
Right.
but to remind
Now, people have been complaining, rightly so, saying, when is Congress going to do something? What's Democrats doing? What's the Democrats doing? The Democrats are in the minority. Other people have been saying, what's Congress doing? What are our representatives doing? Well, your representatives, the Republican Party, they haven't done shit about your economy. They haven't done shit to help the average American. What they have spent their time on was to come back and rush this bill through, voter suppression, largely aimed at women. And why is that? Because women, literally, most of them change their names when they get married. So, if you're forced to bring a birth certificate to prove that you're a citizen, bingo, guess what? Your birth certificate likely won't be the same as your married name. So it won't qualify. That's how they've gone about this. And that doesn't just affect women, it affects many people. How do you prove this is you? And they're saying it has to be the same name. That's Congress for you, or the Republicans for you. People should be very, very afraid right now. Again, I'm just telling you, this is not just one single act. This is a series of acts that is designed to create chaos, to create an environment that is chaotic. So chaotic that it pushes the United States into a civil war. That is the goal. Because with the civil war, President Trump doesn't have to be accountable. The billionaires, Elon Musk, they don't have to be accountable. They can just fly off wherever the hell they want. They could be protected in a bunker, but most of them are just going to get out of Dodge and disappear, and leave the American people. That means the broke asses on the right and the others to just do and fend for themselves while the military sits back. I mean, what role would the military have? Well, you could see they already put a civilian head of the military headset who's a complete right-wing extremist, a Hitler follower. Not that the U.S. military is just going to go along with that because the civilian leadership is a Hitler follower. No. But it's up in the air, yo. That's where they're leaving it. They're leaving it to just for you to find out what's going to happen. They're not going to tell you what's going to happen. They're not going to help you plan for what's going to happen. They're not preparing to calm anybody down. No, they want this shit to explode. Also, under the cover of chaos, anyone else can strike. That's the real scary part. So let's hear some more.
to everyone what the SAVE Act would do would require everyone to show in person documentary proof of a U.S. citizenship to register to vote for federal elections. Now, this would decimate online.
Now, a passport works. I have my passport. Do you? A passport works for several reasons. You can get the fuck out of Dodge if you need to, and you can vote. I'm going to follow up on that just in a second, but let's hear some more.
And mail-in voter registrations. It would prohibit states from counting mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day, even if the ballots themselves are postmarked by Election Day. It would require states to do more frequent voter purges, and it would threaten election officials with jail time or civil lawsuits if they register someone to vote without the proper documents, even if that person is a citizen and an eligible voter.
Yeah, and I think that, when you run through it, people need to recognize that this hits all of the big themes that Republicans have. It makes it harder to register to vote for millions and millions of people, in part by essentially gutting the ability to do online voter registration, something that the state of Texas, where you're from, has been trying to do, and other Republican states have been doing. Also making it harder, if not impossible, to register to vote by mail. So it's basically in-person voter registration. Then within that category of in-person voter registration, it makes the documents you need to prove citizenship very, very hard for U.S. citizens to meet. It sounds great to say there needs to be documentary proof of citizenship. Well, I got to message everybody. It's already the case that only citizens can register to vote. And it is already the case that only citizens do register to vote. There is no epidemic or even widespread or even non-widespread problem of non-citizen voter registration, no less non-citizen voting in this country. But this was a manufactured problem in order to have a real impact on people who should be able to register easily. And those are voters who may not have a U.S. passport, may not have access to their original or certified copy of their birth certificate. I mean, how many of you out there right now have a copy of your original birth certificate? I don't mean a photocopy. I don't mean that something was passed down. I mean like the original certified version of it. I shouldn't even say a copy. The original certified version of it, or have gone to the trouble of going to your state vital records office and getting a certified copy since then. Again,
I have because I live abroad, not born and raised abroad, but as an adult in my 30s, I moved abroad. And that's why I have it. So I can do all those things that need to be done. So when you live abroad, every once in a while you need these things. Well, number one, you need a passport. But number two, eventually you will likely need a birth certificate or a certified copy of it, that is nice and clean, legible, and all of this has a new government stamp of approval on it. These kind of things that you need. You need an actual stamp on your birth certificate and from the government. Now, I don't know if that's the state government or whatever. I guess it's the state government, But in any case, I'm a little lucky because I'm from Washington, D.C., and they don't play around with these things in D.C. Like the government offices work. The government offices are very good at doing their jobs. These kind of things, because DC citizens and residents have always been put under extra pressure and scrutiny. So we're used to that. However, loads of people outside of DC are not. The average American, 95% of Americans are not used to that type of thing. They've been voting. They've been citizens. They already have other means of stopping non-citizens from voting. So this is obviously voter suppression because there's a number of other ways to prove if somebody's a registered, is an actual citizen. So I don't know what this is all about, but it's scary.
Not something you can print out on the internet. Not something that's convenient to keep. I mean, with a raised embossed seal. Very, very few people, or a lot of people at least, don't have those documents, and they don't have passports because they don't have a need to travel or they don't want to spend the money on a passport. If you don't have those documents, proving that you are a U.S. citizen is not easily done. I mean, in some states, real IDs may do the trick. Frankly, it's not even clear to me as a voting rights lawyer whether that is true in all states, because people can get real IDs, driver's licenses, who are green card holders, for example, in some states. And so, this is going to cause a lot of confusion. And by the way, not everyone has a real ID driver's license. So most driver's licenses that people have won't even qualify for this. So this is going to cause a lot of confusion, and it's going to disenfranchise a lot of people. And a lot of people are just going to shrug their shoulders and walk away and be like, you know what, voting's not worth it. This is too complicated and paid. That is exactly what they have in mind here. And the kicker here is that they are also targeting married women.
Right, Mark, just looking at the numbers, 69 million women in the United States have changed their name because of marriage. Now, the name that they have on their current driver's license or other ID card may not match what's on their birth certificate. So then you also have to bring all those bridging documents, right? A marriage certificate, a divorce decree. And this isn't hypothetical because we have seen most recently in New Hampshire just a couple weeks ago, reports of women who had to go back and forth, return to an election office 2 or 3 times, bringing more and more documents to prove that the person that is standing there with the driver's license and the birth certificate changed their name throughout their lives because of marriage. This is 69 million American women who have changed their names because of marriage, not to mention the millions of other Americans who may have changed their name because they are a trans voter, they changed their name, people who changed their name because they want to change their name, right? People change their names for lots of different reasons, but the point is that the SAVE Act is arbitrarily disenfranchising them.
Yeah, the reason why I focus on married women is, first of all, because of the sheer numbers of it, and also the unbelievable hypocrisy that the Republican Party is passing a bill that literally targets women who choose to change their last name when they get married. I mean, like, that's like a whole other level of hypocrisy. But the reason why I focus on it
Yeah,
is
and
because,
that is hypocrisy because this is exactly what Christian, so-called Christian households are known for. You know, you change your name. The women are supposed to change the name to the husband's name. That's a Christian American thing, largely. Uh, Not all groups of people do that. To be honest with you, immigrants, people of immigrant background, don't necessarily do that. Did you know that? Because they have another system. Yeah, they have another system in the way they do names. Sometimes, a lot of times, let's say if you're from Ethiopia or Eritrea, maybe Somalia, something like that, your last name would be your dad's first name. Did you know that? For a lot of people, it's not always, sometimes they change it when they come to the US and try to fit in, but not everybody does that. So, citizens that are first generation, like not first generation, yeah, that came to the country, that moved to the country, they don't actually have a problem here. Their name largely wouldn't change. The only ones is the women who got married and maybe they would have to change their name then, but do you even have to change your name when you get married? No, you don't actually have to. You see? So there lies the problem. So the Republicans are very, very hypocritical because they basically have attacked their base. The women that voted for them largely will all have to go through this extra thing. Now, keep in mind, you're going to have to pay for all those bridging documents. If you can't find them, you're going to have to cough out $100 or so out of your pocket just for the bridging documents, possibly. You're going to have to spend time. And it's not even about the $100. You're going to have to spend time going back and forth. How much do you get paid an hour? How much time do you want to stand in a line? How much time you want to use on this? Because time is money. So, yeah, it's just something to think about and prepare for.
like birth certificates, marriage documents come in all sizes and shapes and presentations. And I am just here to tell you, if you were married outside the United States, trying to get the clerk in in some county to recognize that as a valid as you say bridging document, maybe.
I'm gonna chime in right there. The process when you're married outside of the U.S., if you're a U.S. citizen, you know what you do. If you want your family members coming to the United States or having access to the United States, having visas to the United States, let's say you could have a 10-year visa. A lot of people do that, right? Like myself. I already went and had mine certified so that it's registered and accepted by the United States government, the federal government, the marriage. You see what I'm saying? So, all of these things, again, people that live outside of the United States, if you've been living outside of the United States for about 10 years, you probably already have this stuff done. You know, it's the new people, the people who just may have done that, but I don't think so. Like, see, the issue with this is that a lot of countries, they already require these certifications. So if you move to a place like Denmark because you're married, for example, you get married to someone here, you have to certify. You get married. That's in Danish. The Danish government accepts that. But when you want to apply for a visa for your spouse to come to the U.S. or report the marriage, it has to be certified by a legitimate English clerk, someone that can co-sign it, and you have to pay about maybe $50 to $100. Then you take it to the embassy, and the embassy has to either accept it or reject it. Once they accept it, it's accepted. It's part of their records. You see? So it's not like you have to do these things more than once. Again, if you're inside of the U.S., it could be. It sounds to me like it's more complicated inside. That's what it sounds like to me. And it also sounds like American citizens inside the U.S. are being treated very, very poorly. And again, I'm not talking about any selective group. I'm talking about all women, all. And think about this: younger people, this generation, don't even. A lot of times, the only reason why they want to be married is not to change their name. You see what I mean? They get married for tax purposes, but it doesn't mean they change their name. Again, it's the Christian ones that largely are doing this. You understand that? The Christian ones are largely doing this. Um, and for some reason, the Republicans again are seem to be going after Christian women.
Maybe not. I was told actually just before we did this video by someone who told me that when they went to register to vote under the current system, they had a marriage license from out of state, and the Department of Motor Vehicles looked at it and they didn't think it looked official enough. And they were lecturing this woman that that you have to understand the marriage certificates here, they look a certain way. And this person's like, I don't know what to tell you. I got married in a different state. This is their document, right? So again, it's a little bit like what I say about the real ID. Like people, it's not like
You see, when you live outside of the USA, that's not the case. That little detail right there is not happening. It's actually happening to Americans inside of the country from state to state, which is pathetic because the states are the ones that are supposed to have the right to govern these things. Now the federal government is inserting as well, but the federal government didn't want to insert its will on other things. Didn't want to insert its will on Trump running for office again as a rapist and a felon and a person who stole documents from the United States government. No, they didn't want to intercede there. Where Congress wants to intercede is your voting right as American citizens. They don't want to intercede with anybody else's voting right. They want the ones that can vote in federal elections, which already are only American citizens.
People working behind the desk in the clerk's office who do voter registration are experts in what original birth certificates look like. I mean, my original birth certificate from the state of New York when I was born, frankly, looks like something that was like an abstract, which is what it was. It was like basically like it's like black, it's like white on black paper. So it looks like it was printed out on like what we used to call microfiche. I don't even know if you know what that is. And then, but then it's embossed. But like, my wife, who was born in a different place in New York, her birth certificate was handwritten. I mean, like they were still at that point doing handwritten birth certificates, and there was an embossing. I've seen other birth certificates that are like computerized, like they look like they are a computer printout. And by the way, you don't take my word for it. Remember the Republican Party? Remember Donald Trump, how we first heard of him potentially wanting to get involved in politics? It's because he was questioning whether Barack Obama was born in the United States. And they insisted that the birth certificate that he presented from the state of Hawaii was not sufficient to prove that he was a U.S. citizen. Right? This is the document that the state of Hawaii was issuing, but they insisted that there was another document, the so-called long form birth certificate, which the state of Hawaii was like, no, we actually don't use that document to prove birth. Like, that's a different document. But you can see, Paige, how this is just a trap. This is just a trap to disenfranchise people and to make it impossible for them to navigate this system and to just give up and say, you know what, I'm not gonna register to vote if I can't do it by mail, can't do it online, I have to show up in person. And then when I show up in person, they're going to question me about why my marriage certificate or my birth certificate looks a certain way or doesn't look a certain way, or whether the driver's license I have meets their conception of what proves citizenship. This is
Right. Now, sorry about that. Here is the irony in it. There's already 80 million Americans before this act was passed by Congress that did not vote in federal elections. 80 million. That's damn near more people than Germany has. It might even be more. That's more people than the largest EU countries have. You got to understand this. 80 million is the tip top, the biggest, right, of EU countries. That's how many already did not vote. Now, this can affect potentially 69 million more voters, more citizens. This is an egregious act. That would make it 150 million people. Now, how many? There's only 350 million citizens in the United States, or people in the United States. 350 million. That's not a lot. The EU has 450 million, not including the UK. So you're basically about to eliminate the larger portion of citizens from voting that exists. The largest portion. Let me just double check this and see how many American citizens are there. Let me just double check and see how many. I'm not sure. I think the total population is 350 with the okay, so it's 340 million. Sorry. And then yeah, okay. And then 800 and almost less than a million of them became naturalized. And then 7 million, like myself, live abroad. That doesn't affect most of us. Well, it won't affect the people that are from Washington, D.C., because we're used to having all this paperwork ready. But for every year, for many things, not just voting, but for taxes and, actually not for taxes, but for many other reasons. But when we want to travel in the EU or outside of the EU, from here, we need our passports. So therefore, while precise figures are not available, it's reasonable to estimate that there are over 300 million U.S. citizens worldwide. Right. So, so the population is 340. So there's about 40 million of those people are not citizens. But again, they don't vote in federal elections. So 300. So this affects half of the citizens of the United States. This one law. This affects half. Let's say 300 and then, no, wait a second. Sorry about that. There's 300 million American citizens. 80 million of them already do not vote in federal elections, so that's 220. Then you add another 70 million people. 220. Yeah, this is half of the that means only half of the U.S. citizens themselves even have a possibility of voting if that's pretty much what the expectation is. Half now will be able to vote if this law stands up in Congress. That's 150 million. That's a very bad day. I know Americans have gotten used to this kind of treatment overall, so it may not be a big shocker. It may not induce fear. It may not induce any get up and go, I better do something about this. But, my view about it is that the more people accept of this treatment, the more they're going to get of this treatment. The less outraged they are of this treatment, the less outrage they show about this treatment, the more the treatment will be interpreted as being okay with the treatment. And they are not going to stop unless American citizens stop them. Don't just depend on Congress, because Congress is controlled by Republicans. You can't depend on that right now. There will be elections in 2 years in Congress, and maybe you'll have a chance. Don't just wait on the Senate. Republicans have control over the Senate. That you can't expect them to do anything about this. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. You don't know. You can't just depend on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is majority Republican. They agree with Donald Trump being the president. They agreed that he should be able to run as a felon. They agreed he should be able to run as a rapist. They agreed he should be able to run even after he left office, stealing records and possibly gave them to the enemies of the United States. So you can't really just depend on them right now. But what you can do is depend on the fact that the more outrage you show, the more heat these other branches of government feel to act. Without people being outraged and showing their outrage, these people are not going to do a damn thing. I mean, that's how I look at it. And maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room. Maybe they'll do a little bit. So maybe I'm wrong technically. But largely, I'm pretty much correct because you're already going through the heat. Now, let me just flip over real quick. Yeah. Let me just flip over real quick to the next thing here. Let me see. Window capture, boom. Want to see which one this is. House passes bill. That's Chrome. No, that's you. Let me see here. Boom, boom, boom. Here it is. I believe it's this one, right? Let's pull this up on the screen. Got it. Go over to here. Pull this one back. Now let me see. Go over here. Right. House passes Republican bill. So for those who are sitting back saying, what the Democrats going to do about it? The Republicans are the majority. They can do things without the Democrats, which they have done here. So get out of your brain about what the Democrats are going to do as the minority party or what blame the Democrats hold as a minority party. This is a Republican written bill and a Republican passed bill. You people that voted for these Republican representatives, these are your representatives, and they're claiming that you support this. And if you don't like it, you might want to get some new representatives and you might want to get down to their offices and you might want to stop sending them money and you might want to make their lives a little difficult because they are definitely planning on making and doing it right now, making your life difficult. This bill requires voters to provide proof of U.S. citizenship. The House, whatever that means. The House passed one of the Republican signature issues for the year on Thursday, approving legislation to require proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote for federal elections. One of the President Donald Trump's top election related priorities. That's what he said. That's what y'all Republicans wanted. That's what you MAGA people wanted, right? Well, get your ass down there and get your records straight very fast. Because you wanted to do this yourself when you voted for him. You wanted to go and get all those records. You got the money in your pocket right about now, even though there's a little inflation and you're feeling the heat. But don't complain because it's your choice. Not near Republican need to be complaining as much as they need to be doing something. Nearly all Democrats lined up against the bill and warned that it risks disfranchising millions of Americans who do not already have access to proper documents. Hey, Republicans, you MAGA folk, do you have access to proper documents? Better get your ass down there to that state office and stand in line. Don't go to work a day or two. Stand in line and risk being told, oh, ma'am, yeah, we forgot to tell you, you better come back with this too. You needed to bring this also. Get ready for that treatment. Spend some extra gas money too, since you like gasoline cars. Okay? Trump signs action requiring proof of citizens for voters. Other measures overhauling elections. That's another story. I think that likely some of it may get overturned. But let's finish with this one. Trump has long signaled a desire to change how elections are run in the United States. This shit don't affect me at all, but it affects 99% of Americans. Um, Damn, God must be on my side or something, to be honest with you. Um, I'm sick. I'm a little under the weather. It's going on the third week now. I've just been at home chilling, trying to get past this little bug. It's a real bug that's going around in the EU and Denmark, but I can't go to work until it's done completely because I could risk infecting other people. It's just a common cold, maybe connected to COVID. This new morphing. It's not COVID. It's something else, but just wanted to let you know I'm okay. I'm doing fine. I'm on sick leave right now. You know what I'm saying? No emergencies yet over here. Um, but back to the U.S. Republicans argue the legislation known as the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act is necessary to ensure only citizens vote in the U.S. elections and would cement Trump's order into law. Into law. Basically, what you could do is you could save yourself some trouble in the future by not just getting your birth certificate, get a passport. Get a passport so you can also get the hell out of Dodge when this civil war starts. Get the hell out of Dodge because they don't want you existing. Trump needs a civil war to happen. He needs all out chaos so that he can take the next step, which is protect himself and declare that there won't be no election. And also declare, so him and his stooges can get away with robbing the American people out of their tax dollars. That's what I would be thinking. I don't know if it's a fact, but I'd be thinking something like that if I was an American citizen right about now. That's what I would be thinking about. How does Trump plan on getting away with all these damn dastardly things he's been doing? And Elon Musk, what could their plan be? Chaos could be a good plan. It could be a good way to escape all the hatred of the American people. But who knows? What do I know? This marks Republicans' second attempt at passing the SAVE Act. It passed the House last year but failed the Senate. So they're going at it again. It's unlikely to fare any better this year. While Republicans won control of the Senate last fall, bingo, they have a narrow majority that falls short of 60 votes. Of the 60 votes they would need to overcome a filibuster. Yeah, we're going to see. Republicans, pass or not pass, you should be extremely afraid that they would even have the nerve to try it, because if they keep trying crazy shit like this, one of these things is going to work. You try 10 things, 2 of them is going to work. The SAVE Act will require all applicants using the federal voter registration form to provide documentary proof of citizenship in person at their local elections office. Among the acceptable documents are a valid U.S. passport and a government-issued photo ID card presented alongside a certified birth certificate. So let's read that again. Among the acceptable documents are a valid U.S. passport and a government-issued photo ID card presented alongside. See? So what this means is that if you have a passport, you don't need the ID and the birth certificate. That's basically what it means. Among the acceptable documents are a valid U.S. passport and government-issued photo ID card presented alongside. You see, it's interesting how they wrote that, but I'm not stupid because I've verified this before. Democrats of voting right groups warn the legislation could lead to widespread voter disenfranchisement if it were to become law. The Brennan Center for Justice and other groups estimated in 2023 report that 9% of U.S. citizens voting age, or 21 million people, do not have proof of their citizenship readily available, meaning at their fingertips, meaning they would have to go down to an office and stand in a line in their state offices and get these little records, which they will be able to get, among half Americans don't have a U.S. passport. It's probably more. Almost half don't. In Kansas, a proof of citizenship requirement that passed in 2011 ended up blocking the voter registrations of more than 31,000 U.S. citizens in the state who were otherwise eligible to vote. You hear that, y'all? That means a lot of you guys already been going through these little things, right? Being denied your voting right on election day in a federal election. Well, guess what? More people get to find out what that's like. The law was later declared unconstitutional by a federal court. Oh, well, too late. And hasn't been enforced since 2018. Well, that's good, but it stopped people from voting that day. Just to exercise their inalienable rights as citizens of this country, Republicans would force Americans into a paperwork nightmare, said Republican Joe Morelli, a Democrat from New York. Why is only the Democrats talking about this as a problem? This bill is really about disenfranchising Americans, not non-citizen Americans. Exactly. It is. 99% of people don't realize this, but the process that the states have already put into effect already are strong to knock out people from voting who are not citizens, because you have to have precise, not only information, but you already have to have other forms of validation that for other things to be able to operate in a state that the state would require. It's not that you would be able to just make up all of these things, these qualifying features. So they've already found a way to narrow down this stuff. A further concern came up several times Thursday. Married women would need multiple documents to prove their citizenship if they have changed their names. Married women, this is going out to you. Married American women, this is going out to you. MAGA women, Christian women who change your names when you get married, this is what your elected officials like Mike Johnson want you to do it. Yeah, if you think it's fair, then you think it's fair. I mean, me, again, I'm an American citizen. My family's comes from the colonial period in the United States, before it was a country. Fought in all these wars. Both sides of my family. It doesn't affect me, and I live outside of the United States of America. But I care about my fellow American citizens' rights. I care about the Constitution, and I care about my country. I think I probably do more than a lot of people that live inside the damn country. I'm finding out. Not just the country, but people's civil rights. It was a complication that arose in the town hall elections held last month. I'm reading from PBS, by the way. It was a complication that arose in the town hall elections held last month in New Hampshire, which was enforcing a new state law requiring proof of citizenship to register. One woman since divorce told the local elections clerk that her first marriage was decades ago in Florida, and that she, Florida citizens, guess what, y'all, down there in Florida, you Republicans in Florida, one woman since divorce told a local elections clerk that her first marriage was decades ago in Florida, and that she no longer had the marriage certificate showing her name change. She was unable to register to vote for her town elections. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo, says the MAGA voter. She probably Republican her damn self. I don't know. Maybe not, but, MAGA people say, boo-hoo, too bad for you, lady. This legislation would immediately disenfranchise 69 million women who have changed their names after marriage or divorce. Just in case you thought there was a way out of this. Said Republican Deborah Ross, a Democrat from North Carolina. Well, Democrats again standing up. Republican Lauren Lee, Democrats again having a brain. But here's a Republican, Laura Lee, a Republican from Florida, said the bill contemplates this exact situation of married women whose name have changed, saying it explicitly directs states to establish a process for them to register to vote. Oh, really? Does it? Okay. Yeah, establish a process. What is a process? Morelli countered by saying, why not write it in the bill? Why are we making the potential for 50 different standards to be set? Exactly. Exactly. Why don't you know exactly what you want states to do? Isn't this ridiculous? So they don't know exactly what they want states to do. They're just ordering they do something. Something vague. Something ambiguous so it can be challenged later by them. The same party that says, oh, we don't know what you should do. You should just do something about it. Oh, well. Just got everybody running in circles. How much paperwork do Republicans expect Americans to drown in, excuse me. Democrats also said the bill would disproportionately affect older people in assisted care facilities, military service members who wouldn't be able to solely use their military IDs, people of color, and working class Americans who may not have time or money to jump through the bureaucratic hoops. But I already see how MAGA people think about this. They're broke asses. They look at this like, like narcissists. You said it's going to hurt people of color. It must be good. Just because they didn't mention your broke ass doesn't mean it won't also affect you. This is how MAGA people think, though. So it has to be said. Yes, it will affect you, too. The SAVE Act is everything our civil rights leaders fought against, said Republican Nikema Williams, a Democrat from Georgia. Republicans have defended the legislation as necessary to restore public confidence in elections and say it allows states to adopt procedures to help voters comply. It allows states to adopt procedures. They have disputed Democratic characterizations of the bill. So if states just do any goddamn thing they want, apparently Republicans are okay with that. You know, they just want them to do anything you want at this time around. We don't care, just something. You should just do something. You just check everybody. I mean, nobody knows what this bill means. The truth is, those who were registered to vote would still be able to vote under their current registration, said Republican Chip Roy, a Texas Republican who sponsored the bill. We have mechanisms giving the state fairly significant difference to make determinations as to how to structure the situation where an individual does have a name change, which of course is often women. Okay. On Thursday, Roy said Cleta Mitchell, a key figure in Trump. So why did they even write the bill? This is the ridiculousness of it. Why is this something Congress is working on in the first place? Is it just for superficial purposes to make it seem like they're doing something? Like they're following through with something Trump said? Is this what you want your federal tax dollars going to? You tell me. On Thursday, Roy said Cleta Mitchell, key figures in Trump's campaign to overturn the 2020 election results, had a significant hand in what we're doing here. Mitchell, a longtime GOP lawyer, has played a central role in coordinating the movement to tighten voting laws across the country. Is this tightening? The truth is, look, let's go back. Republican Chip Roy said the truth is those who were registered to vote would still be able to vote under their current registration. Okay, and then another Republican follows up and says, had a significant, Mitchell, a longtime GOP lawyer, he says, has played a role in the Senate. Okay, where is this at? On Thursday, Roy said Cleta Mitchell, a key figure in Trump's campaign to overturn the 2020 elections, had a significant hand in what we're doing. Mitchell, a longtime GOP lawyer, has played a central role in coordinating the movement to tighten voting laws. To tighten voting laws? Then you go back and you read, the truth is those who were registered to vote would still be able to vote under the current registration. This makes no sense. Trump lost the 2020 elections to Democrat Joe Biden, but has repeatedly made the bogus claims that it was stolen for him. There is no evidence to support Trump's claim. Election officials and his own attorney general rejected the notion. His arguments have been roundly dismissed by courts, including judges he has appointed. Adrian Fontes, a Democrat who serves as Arizona's top state election official, describes the voting proposal as a solution in search of a problem, given how rare non-citizen voting is. What it is doing is capitalizing on fear. Fear built on a lie, Fontes says, and that lie is that a whole bunch of people who aren't eligible are voting. That's not true. Yeah. So, to me, it sounds like they don't want people voting. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, I don't know how, how it's going to turn out for every single person in every single state, but it seems to me like it's just the same game again. What's going to happen is there's going to be different standards applied on voting day to different people depending on what they look and sound like and when you say their names, which doesn't make sense, but it seems like that because let's keep in mind, a first generation American can sound and look exactly like one who's been there the entire time since the country was founded. They can have the same names too. So what do you think is going to be affected here? Who do you think is really going to be challenged on election day? Think about it. Who's always getting challenged on election day? Who's always been given a double standard on election day? I mean, I'm just saying, think about it, right? Let's think about it. All right, so let's go on and see what they have.